In this 37 minutes video, we'll talk about test-driven development, best practices in programming, and Django setup for the official project or website for Django, djangoproject.com. Come along with me on this journey. We review the code together.
Okay, we are going to be doing a Django code review today. It's the official Django project website. I have briefly looked at this code before, but don't know much in detail. All I've done off camera is just clone the repository. So let me show it to you. Just did a simple git clone, nothing special, and we'll be looking at the code today. So it's this main website, Django project. Let's look at it. First, we'll give it a brief look on GitHub, and then we'll move to VS Code and figure out what's what, right? So the first thing that I typically like to do just for the heck of it is just like look at all the commits, right? Look at like what the back and forth has been, what the files have been changed. Typically when I'm doing this, even I don't have clue of what I'm looking for, but just like looking. But some of it looks interesting. So seems like this is just a documentation fix. Yeah, this is some upgrade to Django. Yeah, this is also an update. What I also like to do, part of the process, is look at the pull requests, and especially the ones that closed, right? You probably will learn more from the pull requests that have not been merged than from the pull requests that have been merged. Now, why would you do that? Well, typically if you're contributing to any open source project, it comes with its own set of community guidelines, own set of checklists. If they haven't been fulfilled, your pull request won't be accepted. Simple as that. So what I'm doing out over here is just looking at this random pull request that seems to have like 7 comments. Excuse me. Yeah, seems like a little back and forth on the pull request, nothing interesting here. But yeah, now let's move on to the VS code and see what's happening. So what is the first file for any Django project you want to take a look at? Obviously readme.md file. So that's what we are going to do. We are going to look at in this case it's RST. If you don't already know, RST stands for restructured text. It is, I would say, a cousin of markdown format. It allows you to kind of format documentations in a nice manner without having to do too much. Yes, it has its own syntax, but it's worth learning it because then you don't end up spending too much time formatting, right? When I used to use Word, I still do use Words or the web version of it called Google Docs. I find myself formatting 80% of the time, and 20% of time is actually writing the documentation, right? So you can imagine how much effort goes in there, and all that can be saved by just learning one of these languages, right? Like Markdown or restructured text. So what it says is install and run locally. You need to create a virtual environment. You need to do requirements. Might be not a bad idea. Let's just create a virtual environment in here. Yeah, I already have a bunch of crap here, but let's just do it anyway. Python 3 minus mvenv and djvenv, right? So we are creating a virtual environment here and we are activating it. djvenv when activate. All right. Now what is the next thing that we need to do? We need to install the requirements. Let's try and install it. When you're doing code reviews, it might not be a bad idea to have a working copy of it, and you want to take it in baby steps. What you really want to do is you want to first understand the basic structure, have it locally set up, then try to make a simple change, right? And the simple change is just as simple as like changing a string and checking if it works correctly end to end. So firstly, let's just go ahead and install the dependencies. Let's see if this works. Now given that, let's just use this. You don't have to shoots. See, we are not in the correct directory. We need to go into Django project and run this command. Installing bunch of package seems nice. While that is happening, let's also check out the Docker file. These days, all the cool kids in the town use Docker files, right? So we're going to check Docker file and see like how many containers it's running, what are the dependencies and things like that, right? After taking a peek at the README, you can probably also look at Docker. You might be asking like, why are you setting a virtual environment and not using Docker? We can, but I'm a little bit old school and like to do it the old fashioned way, right? So let's look at it. Yeah, so this is your Docker file. It is using the Python image, doing some bunch of updates in here, installing packages. Yes, standard stuff. Let's see if we have a compose file. So the Docker file is like a make file, has build instructions, but the Docker component compose file is the one which has all the information. If you're running multiple container application, you'll come to know about it, right? So out over here we can see that we have like 2 containers that will be running if we did Docker compose up. One would be web, another one would be a DB. And it seems like for this one they are using like the Postgres image, which is a good thing. Postgres is a pretty good database. It's rock solid and battle tested. So what all does it do? Depends on DB, right? So it depends on construct. Out over here what it says is spin up a web container only after you have the database container up and running, right? And out over here they are specifying some configuration files. Sorry, not the configuration file, but the configuration parameter. And I bet some of this is getting used in settings, right? So let's just double check it and cross reference it. So if we look at settings, do we have a settings out over here, or do we have a base.py? So these are the base of py different packages. Let's just go here and check. Go in here. Do we have a Django project? Yeah, we do. Go to settings. Nothing in init. For common, it just has bunch of common things. I guess what are those common things? Even I don't know. We'll figure out. So yeah, there you go, right? So this is the section which is getting all the database configuration settings or database connection strings. Basically, what is a username, what is a host name, etc. Now it's using secrets. Where is the secrets coming from? Okay, so it comes from one of the 2 places. There is a JSON file from which we load it, right? Or if it doesn't exist. So OS error is when you're trying to access a file, and if it doesn't exist, it's probably going to create some dummy stuff in here. That's okay. It's okay with us. Anything else with regards to secrets? So yeah, when you do a JSON.load, it will take your JSON file and convert it into Python dictionary. That's how it works. Yeah, one more cool trick is the get part. So let's say you have a dictionary. Let me explain this cool stuff. So let's say if I have a dictionary and in that I have a key called A and the value is 1 out over here. If I do x of b, it is going to most probably raise a key error, right? But if you do a dot get, what it's going to do is it's going to try and find it. It allows you to specify a second parameter, and this is going to be default parameter, right? So let's say if I just put in nada, as in nothing in Spanish, it will return nada, right? So that's it. That's pretty cool. Oh, so we have a whole bunch of applications. Yeah, this is a Django thing. Whenever you create an application, it has to be plural. Whereas if you create a model in Django, it has to be singular, right? So what I mean by that is, let's just go to accounts models, accounts. In here, you will see that profile out over here is not plural. It's a singular thing, right? And it just has a user and a name, and it has a one-to-one field to user. So this user is the Django's built-in user. Let me also tell you about something called as abstract user and abstract base user, right? Django abstract user, and